This is a message for all the parents who have neurodiverse children, and the struggle is real. Now, from my perspective, I am also neurodiverse, so this intensifies things so much more. And I wanted to do a video specifically on this topic because I understand thoroughly how hard it is parenting when you are neurodiverse and your children or child is also neurodiverse. This particular morning, I have had a morning of it. It has been one of the hardest mornings I have probably had in a while. And a lot of my mornings used to be like this morning because when, for me personally, I'm just going to talk from my own personal experience, because I've always had emotional dysregulation, and I never really understood it until obviously recently, when I have done so much research on ADHD and autism and how much actually goes into it. Because I don't think unless you studied it, you don't really understand how much goes into it and how much it has an effect on your nervous system, your stress levels, your behavioral patterns, the level and capacity of being able to cope in stressful situations, not having any patience, all the things, I thoroughly understand how hard it is because I have lived it and I am living it. So the past couple of years, I'm a single parent. I have a daughter who she hasn't got an official diagnosis, but she's well on her way. And when she was younger, I used to homeschool her. So, our day to day was very different, because I know how hard the getting up and getting your kids ready for school and getting them to school. I understand how much of a struggle that is, and especially when they don't want to be in the school and they don't particularly like school. And every day is different. Some mornings you can get them into school quite well, other mornings not so much. Even the initial getting them ready for school is hard work because, when you're telling them to do things, they're easily distracted. They'll go and do something else, or they take forever to get dressed and they can't quite function quite well of a morning. And that's to do with the executive function front lobe of the brain, because everything, it takes them like 10 times longer than an average child to get themselves ready and get anything done, especially of a morning, especially of a school morning. So trust me, I am well experienced in this field. Like I said, Isla was homeschooled, and I loved homeschooling Isla because school isn't for every kid, and specifically neurodiverse kids, because it's very hard for them to sit all day. It's very hard for them to concentrate. They really struggle with the work because the brain is wired differently. And I know that from when I was in school, only the difference was I didn't understand why I struggled in school. I just thought I was thick. So I actually left school thinking I was thick because I couldn't, do school as well as, other people. And it wasn't the fact that I was thick. It was just my brain learned differently, but I never understood that. So for neurodiverse kids, it's very, very difficult for them in a school setting. And, for a while, everything was great with the homeschooling. And then it started to get really, really difficult. And because it is just me and my daughter and I don't have the support, it was getting to a point where she was refusing to do any work. She was refusing to learn. I did notice that, like, especially with her reading and her spelling, she really, really struggled with that. And I just assumed it was because, I'm not a teacher as such, even though I do have a level 3 teaching. I just thought that maybe I wasn't, equipped enough, and I felt like I was holding her back. And, she was very frustrated all the time. So I made the decision to put her into school, which I am glad that I did at this point, because obviously everything that's come after that. So the first school that I put her in, she really, really struggled. I was constantly at the school. I was trying to explain to them that I believed that she, had ADHD and autism. They just ignored me basically. And they used to be quite hard on her when it came to doing her work and stuff like that. So it was just a whole mess. So then I removed her from that school and put her into a different school, which was the best thing I ever done. I just wish I would have put her straight into this school, because they are so hands-on and so understanding when it comes to neurodiversity. And, fast forward 2 years, she's been put in for a referral, and she is also, it's actually come to light that she's actually high risk dyslexic, and she has visual stress. So this is why she struggles with the reading and the writing. So she has to have an overlay, and her particular colour is blue. So it's all to do with like the brain and like the colour wheel spectrum. Every kid has a different colour that helps them read better. And because when it's the black and white, it's the black and white paper that they like when they're looking at it, they can't concentrate. So that's why they can't read properly. Like Isla's reading is quite slow. She'll miss lines out. Whereas when she's got a blue overlay on top, she can read so much faster and so much better, which it just blows my mind, all that stuff when it comes to the brain and everything else. So this is why she really, really struggled in school, and at home, when I homeschooled her, I wouldn't have never found that out unless I put it in school. So I'm very, very glad that she did. But she did have such a hard time, especially in the first school, because obviously she struggled, and they just thought that she didn't want to do her work, or, it was more behavioural in a sense. And I just, it really, really irritates me, because there's probably so many kids in school who really struggle for different reasons, and it's being overlooked, and it's getting put down to the fact that they're just lazy, or they don't want to participate, or they want to act out. And really and truly, it could be something as simple as what Isla's going through at the moment. Like she's got visual stress and is flagging up as high at risk dyslexia. So now that I know all this information, it's helped so much. But obviously, I still struggle getting it into school, because she just hates school, and it is such a draining and overwhelming experience the morning school run. And I know that there's probably a lot of parents who know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's even other little things as well. With Isla in particular, I can't say to her, right, shoes, coat, bag. You've got to say things one thing at a time. So, everything has to be like a certain routine and a certain structure. And it's like, okay, shoes, okay, teeth, okay, let's do your hair. Because another thing as well that she struggles with was her it can affect like the motor skills. So, for instance, she's not really good at doing like her buttons and like her laces. She can do them, but it will take so long. She can do her laces, takes it a little bit longer. Obviously, when it comes to buttons and stuff, she really struggles, even with doing her own hair with bobbles and things like that. So I literally have to do everything for her of a morning. Like, I have to get her dressed. Because if I said, right, you get dressed, I came downstairs, 20 minutes has passed, I'll go upstairs and only her underwear would be on, things like that. So obviously because we only have a certain time frame of a morning, I just get her dressed. Obviously, it's a lot easier for me because I've only got the one child. So I get her dressed of a morning, and it can be, some mornings can be a breeze, and other mornings it can be really, really difficult. Like, for example, I literally did have the manhandle out of the house this morning and pretty much drag it to school. And it was just like, by the time I got to the school, I was dripping in sweat. My flipping cortisol levels were through the roof. And I'm studying now, talking, and I feel absolutely drained and absolutely wiped out. Because it's quite intense. And I think it's harder getting your children to do things when they don't want to do it, or they don't like school's like a massive, massive thing for Isla. And I know when she's in there, I know that she does enjoy it to an extent, but because obviously she struggles with the work and stuff, and obviously has the dyslexia, she just hates doing work, and that is the main struggle with her. When it comes to her creative side, and she's in dance school as well, absolutely no issues with that. Because she enjoys being there and it's what she loves to do. It's a passion. So, this is like another major thing in neurodiversity. If you find something boring or you're not interested in something, you're completely shut down and you don't want to do it. And this is why school is very, very difficult for neurodiverse kids, because they don't want to be there and they're not interested in pretty much probably 90% of the things that's being taught to them. And I'm speaking from experience. I was like that in school. I only liked drama. Everything else was just like over the head. So given all that, it did take me a while to adjust to this, because when you don't really have a thorough understanding about it, you just think that it's bad behavior or that they're acting up for it and they're being difficult. But it's really and truly, it's all down to the nervous system and how dysregulated they're feeling that morning. Now, I used to be quite a shouty mum, and I've really, really worked on myself to ensure that I've got a lot of patience and a lot of understanding, because it is difficult. And they're not being naughty, but they're being, when you treat them like they're being naughty, this is where the meltdowns happen. This is where everything goes from 0 to 100. And we are only human, so we are going to have days like today. I got quite shouty this morning because I was highly stressed and it was very, very stressful. But I don't really shout anymore. Like I say, I've done parenting courses. I've done it all. I'm on medication. I'm not one for medication at all, but I knew I had to do certain things where I can keep myself quite regulated, because I want my child to be regulated. And if I'm dysregulated, she's dysregulated, and it's a knock-on effect. Because sometimes, especially when you've been raised in, I was raised, we were always shouted at, and, you're raised a certain way and you just automatically parent the same way you were parented. But it doesn't work. Do you know what, like, it just doesn't work. And I have learned that the hard way and had to go through a lot of stress before it actually clicked. And I was like, right, I can't do this. Because your initial reaction will be to like shout and get irate in certain situations, when if you just keep calm and you don't take certain things on, and you can keep yourself like I said, calm and less stressed, you really notice the difference in how your kid is. Because if both of yous are like, fired up and bumping heads, it's just absolute carnage. And I know there's probably a lot of parents and mums watching me say all this and can resonate with everything that I'm saying. So the point of it is, you've got to try and keep yourself as calm as possible when you are dealing with children who are on the spectrum, because otherwise their whole nervous system and emotional regulation just goes out the window, and it makes things 10 times worse. It really, really does. Obviously, like I say, everyone's going to have their off days, especially when they're learning to be like, widen themselves to be completely different to what they're usually like. I'm quite like a fiery person, and I'm quite loud. And so I've had to really, really work on myself and change my whole complete style of parenting, just so my daughter gets her needs are met to the best of my ability, and the house isn't up in arms on a day-to-day basis. Because obviously, spend 5 days in school, there's 5 days of the week where you're going to be tearing your hair out, and your cortisol levels are going to be through the roof. So yeah, I have really, really worked on my parenting style and learning on how to deal with neurodiversity in kids, because a lot of people who don't understand it, they just think that the kids are being naughty, or the kids are just like throwing a tantrum for nothing. And it honestly, it just doesn't work like that. It's their emotional regulation. Like, their nervous system is so heightened in like fight or flight that they're acting out because they're dysregulated, not because they're being naughty. So it's really, really important to understand that factor of it. Like I say, to ensure that your children's needs are met, you keep calm, and your calmness makes them calm. I'm not saying, I know when my daughter's acting the goat and when she's being naughty and when it's dysregulation. I know the difference. So I will act accordingly to each way. And it is hard at first, because you just think that it's all naughty and behavioural, and it's really not. So that's why I've done a lot of learning, because, our mornings once upon a time were just horrendous. Obviously, we still have, I do have, we have an issue with Isla when it comes to the transition into school. So a lot of the time, it's very difficult actually getting her through the door. She's trying to run off. She doesn't want to leave me. It's really, really hard, because you don't want to leave them. But once I leave 10 minutes or so, on an average day, 10 to 15 minutes, she's absolutely fine and is sat in class and is okay. Some mornings it takes a little longer, like this morning. And I think as well with girls, obviously Isla is not far off coming into adolescence now. And when you've got those hormonal changes with a neurodiverse girl, their behaviour, their dysregulation is on another level, and it gets very, very difficult. And when it's your first time and you're only just learning about it, at first, like I say, you just think that they're acting up and they're being a certain way, and it isn't. You've just got to keep certain things in mind, especially like when the hormonal changes are coming, because I know what I'm like when I'm hormonal. I can be a nightmare. So, and it goes hand in hand. ADHD and hormones are not a good mix. So I, have to understand and give a lot of grace when I can see these changes coming into play with her now that she's reaching a certain age. And obviously when she's tired, she's a nightmare. But so am I when I'm tired. So it's just like learning. Like I say, there was a lot that I misunderstood about myself. I didn't understand a lot of things about myself. So I've managed to learn about myself. That has helped me learn about Isla. And even more so because we're at different stages. She's a child. I'm an adult. So, we could, like, our ADHDs clash. So it can be very, very draining. And, I sympathise with all parents who go through this and who are dealing with neurodiverse children, because it's not easy. It's not easy, and especially when you don't have any support or much support. And, you tend to find like a lot of people don't know about how neurodiversity works. So, people will have, you might have people around you that will be like, oh, they're just this, and oh, you need to be doing this, and you need to be doing that, when you've just got to, stand firm in, and this is why it's so important that you gain the knowledge and you get the most understanding that you can get of it possible, because it is difficult, because if you don't really have an understanding about it, and you might listen to someone who hasn't got a clue, and then you start implementing things that do you know what I mean? It's messy. So just as a parent, just learn as much as you can, understand as much as you can, start like coming at certain situations differently, a lot more calm, because a lot of the time when they are acting like this, they're dysregulated. And if you become dysregulated, it's like fire fighting fire. It just does not work. You have to stay calm. You need to take a deep breath, and you need to not shout. And it's hard, trust me. I know how difficult it is. Do you know what I mean? But you've just got to try and stay as calm as you can. And like I say, your calm nervous system relaxes theirs, and you'll find you'll get a very, very different outcome, and you can shut that, regulate them a lot faster by being calm and patient than you would being fiery, angry, and shouting. And that's all it's based on. It's the regulation. So I hope that I have put across everything that in a good way, and I can give some advice, because, like I say, this morning, I have not had a morning like this morning in a long time, and it has been intense. It has been intense, like to the point where like I was crying at the school, and I haven't done that for a while, because it's really hard. It's so hard, and I don't think people understand just how hard it is. And when you hear comments like, "Oh, they're just being naughty," "Oh, you just need to," and all that, that just doesn't help at all. It makes you feel even worse. So this is, I get it. So for any parents or mums struggling out there, I'm sending you lots of love, and I hope that I've been able to give a little bit of advice in this video, and I hope I got my point across as best that I can. And yeah, so sending lots of love to all the parents, and yeah, struggle's real, but we've got this.